We are very excited to see all of you here. And I'm very excited for this workshop today. We are here for one of our fabulous teacher trainers, one of our fabulous CodeHS educators, teacher trainers, Erik Magness. He's going to be talking about Indiana Karel today. And we'll get started in just a moment. Erik and I have been talking about doing some workshop about Indiana Karel for a while now. So I'm so glad this has finally come together. I think you are all going to love this, completely love this. So welcome again, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started in just a moment because I want to give Erik as much time as we can. So Erik, let's go ahead and just head to that next slide, please. All right, so let's take a minute. I would love it if you would toss a quick introduction into chat. Let us know where you are joining us from. What do you teach? Have you used CodeHS? What's your experience with programming? You know, another good question. Well, we'll find that out as we go. I was going to say something about the sandbox, but that's okay. Yeah, let us know where you're coming to us from. I recognize a lot of names here. Welcome. Hey, James, it's good to see you. Hey, Christine. Welcome, welcome. All right. I know we've got some weather happening in some areas, so I think that's hindering a little bit. A few of our participants are having some trouble staying connected, so that's all right. Yeah, welcome everybody. Hey, Carla. Hopefully your weather will start cooperating for you. Yeah, go ahead and toss your introductions into chat. We would love to hear where you're coming to us from. James is in Massachusetts, a digital learning specialist. That's right, 4 years. And I think you've mentioned that before, James. Cool. Thanks for being a CodeHS educator. We appreciate that. Excellent. All right. We'll let you go ahead and keep tossing those into chat. Hey, Denise, Ogden, Utah. Welcome, welcome. Cool. Used CodeHS for over 2 years. Awesome. So excited that you use CodeHS. Hello. Oh, engineering in New York City. Cool. Never have used CodeHS in a classroom setting. Experience teaching Python and P5.js. Well, this is awesome that you are here because we are excited to show you a small piece of what you can do with the platform. And definitely reach out to me if you've got questions about using CodeHS. I'd love to share some resources with you. Erik actually did a great workshop for us a few months ago on getting started with CodeHS. Hey, Carla, it's good to see you. Carla is in Indiana. Hello, Ingrid. Teaching Python, love it. Hey, Christine, nice to see you. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and keep going. So Erik, I'll have you click to the next slide. All right, so we have our workshop slides for you, and you can also, you'll be able to access those afterwards as well, and we'll get you enrolled in our section shortly too. But if you'd like to right now, go ahead and grab the link to the slides. Hey, thanks, Portia. Portia just tossed that into our chat for us. So if you want to click on that, go ahead, codehs.com/IndianaKarel-slides, or you can scan the QR code. And just as another note too, I've been a very bad host. We have Portia with us. Portia is a PD specialist here at CodeHS. And, you know, I didn't even say my name. That's terrible. I'm just excited about Indiana Karel, so I'm kind of forgetting these things. Portia's laughing at me. Erik, it's okay. You can laugh at me too. It's totally fine. I'm too excited about Indiana Karel. So my name's Lori. For those of you who don't know me, I have been a PD specialist here at CodeHS for well over the last 2 years, 2.5 years now. So I've been a longtime CodeHS fan. I actually use CodeHS in my classroom for probably about 9 years. So very excited to be here with all of you today. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So if you have not used CodeHS, so some of you may not, oh, thanks, Carla. Appreciate it, Carla. You are awesome. Right back at you, lady. So if you need a CodeHS account, please head out to codehs.com/signup to create one. Only takes a few seconds to get that set up. If you are setting it up for the first time today, know that you'll have an account created. It will be unverified. teacher account. So if you're doing it for the first time, let us know, drop a note to Portia or myself, and we can get you verified a little bit quicker. We're pretty fast with those, but we could definitely do that for you today. All right, let's head to that next slide. Once you sign up for an account or sign into your CodeHS account, go ahead and browse to the link that Portia tossed into chat, codehs.com/go/7B7E7. And that will enroll you in Erik's workshop section for today. And you definitely want to be enrolled. If you can't do it on this call, no worries, but definitely do it afterwards. We'll leave that section up and available. That section will have all of Erik's Indiana Carol exercises in it. So you will want to jump into that. And I'll keep an eye on everything from the back end and make sure you are getting enrolled. It looks like, yep, looks like we're getting there. Perfect. Oh, yes. Our CodeHS teachers are pros. You're all getting in there already. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Oh, and one other thing, because I know we're going to get questions. We will have the certificate link at the close of the workshop today. So once Erik goes through everything, we'll have that link for you. We've actually changed it up just a little bit. And when you click that link, you will automatically be sent the certificate of attendance. So we will supply that link at the close of the workshop. So now, without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to the star of our show today, Erik Magness. Erik, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey there, Lori. It's good to be here today. Hello, everyone. So Lori was saying, this Indiana Carol has been kicked around for a couple years now between Lori and me trying to figure out how do we get this presented. And we have finally gotten this opportunity this summer to do so. There was this whole COVID thing in between. Who knew? I have been a CS teacher now. I think I'm going on my 6th year. So I've been teaching now for 26 years. And originally I was a classics major in college, and I came out and I taught Latin for 20 years. I'm at an all-girls Catholic high school in the outskirts of Philadelphia. And it has been a great transition for me. I love Latin, I love Greek, I love the whole classical world, but I had read the Aeneid probably 22 times and Caesar's Gallic War 22 times. And I just, one spring, thought to myself, I cannot do this again. And I had an opportunity at my school to switch over, and I did. And it has been awesome. I used to have to try to figure out excuses to bring technology in my classroom, and now I don't have to. I get to be in the room with all the toys now. So it's really, really great. I currently teach a game design class, a computer programming class, a digital media class, and then 2 AP classes. And I also, this year for the first time, we're teaching advanced topics for those students who have completed both the AP courses and want to keep going in a more discipline. We have them powering on, and it's really just, it's awesome how we've grown in the last few years. So Indiana Carol, we're going to go through what is this Indiana Carol thing that you guys have walked into today. And it was a brainstorm of mine 3.5 years ago, and it kind of comes back and forth into my consciousness. I use it somewhere between 4 and 5 times a year, and it gets different amounts of my emphasis and attention during the school year and things like that. So we'll go through what is Indiana Carol, why would one even use Indiana Carol, what time of the year and what circumstances could you use Indiana Carol, who is it written for, and then hopefully most of the time today we'll get to talk about how you can make your own thing like Indiana Carol. Doesn't be Indiana Carol itself, and at the end we're gonna have some playtime. So Indiana Carol is an extension for a course already written by CodeHS called Intro to Programming Carol the Dog Ace. This is a course that I use in my Intro to Programming class. I use it for the first quarter. of the class. And I love the course. I just wanted to add more to it. Indiana Carroll was created in the CodeHS sandbox environment. And if you look top of my screen in our little CodeHS world in that blue, there's that sandbox right there, which there's so much great stuff and curriculum already written for CodeHS, but you click on this sandbox and boom, whole new worlds open up all of a sudden. And when you create something in the sandbox, it gives an opportunity to share your creation in the problem bank so other teachers can see what has been created and borrow it for their own classes. And so Indiana Carroll was created in this sandbox, and it resides in the problem bank for people to go and borrow and use anytime they want. Indiana Carroll is, from my view, a kind of, using this term broadly, gamification of coding. Indiana Carroll is a bit like a video game where the player is responsible for the safe moving of a character through obstacles. But it's not using through a controller or a joystick or a mouse, but through typing code and hitting run and hoping Carol makes it on the journey. And this is making it so the setting of the coding, this case in the Ultra Carol coding environment, so the setting of the coding is has a little bit of color and pop and geography to it. So it feels like the puppy Carol is actually moving around a pre-existing environment. I love the friendly introduction that Carol gives to my reluctant and doubtful students. So for one of my classes, this coding class, it is fulfilling a requirement, a STEM requirement in my school, which means I get students in that class who really just don't even have any business. They don't want to be there. I mean, they have business being there. They don't want to be there. They wish they could be anybody else. So this just makes it so it's really friendly for them. They do very well in this course. I love the success they have, and they move very swiftly through the course. And once they've moved through the scaffolding, I want them to keep improving their skills and move on. And the great thing about CodeHS is it gives clear guidance for specific skills. And what I want this to do is to synthesize those different pockets of skill so they can reuse them and rethink them. Even if, so when we're doing the while loop section or the for loop section, they know I've got to use a while loop for this. But in the world of Indiana Carroll, unless I've given them specific instructions, they've got to solve it, and they've got to decide what's going to be my best use. Is the most convenient, concise way of doing this a while loop, or will it be a series of for loops, and just to synthesize the knowledge they've gained so far. I also want them to think creatively. I want them to name everything creatively. I want them to use, I want them to be able to kind of think outside the box. When I have my students turn in their code for this, I'm hoping that each code is going to look a little different from everybody else's. Now, the contrast for me, what pushed me to do this is there's a great supplemental set of exercises in CodeHS called Extra Carroll Challenges. And it's not just the Carroll Challenges that's pre-embedded into Intro to Programming, but there's an additional set you can add called Extra Carroll Challenges. And they are tough. And they are more like a brain teaser, because once you figure out how to do it, the code could just be maybe 12 or maybe 30 lines long. It's very concise once you figure out the kind of the trick, the math behind it. And while they're really, really good, some of my students aren't quite ready for that attainment yet. And so this is a bridge for them, this Indiana Carroll unit I've got here. So Indiana Carroll is created in the sandbox environment. And in the sandbox, what you have is when you create a new sandbox, it'll pop up into these My Assignments area. And this is a screenshot of a little bit of one of my pages here. And this is a few of the Indiana Carrolls I've created. I think we're up to 11 now. And you can see that they've been included in different playlists and added to different courses and different things like that. So this is where each individual exercise of Indiana Carroll resides for me in my little world here for my assignments. And then I can gather them together here, and I can gather them into a playlist. And you can see here, I have this one little Indiana Carol one with the badge. I created this little badge because we all need badges. My students love their badges. So we made a badge for this. And this occupies the first chapter of Indiana Carol's Adventures. And now Indiana Carol 2, which has not gotten its badge yet, Indiana Carol 2 only has 2 additional adventures added, and that one's being slowly built and created. But here's where where it sits right here. And then the way you would get this, let's say if you were teaching this intro to programming class in ACE, once you build the class, and this happens to be the course we're in today that I'm showing a picture of, but it could be for any course. At the very end of the page, there's a search for content option. And if you click on search for content, this window pops up here that allows you to either add content from your own playlist. That's what I would do if I added Carol to my class. Or if it was a course I hadn't made, an exercise I hadn't made, I would go in here to the problem bank or the playlist bank to see what have my colleagues made out there to share with the world. And I can type in all kinds of stuff. I'll show you that further on. And then you would bring it in and boom, here is our Indiana Carol with all the adjoining lessons. So our students can get their little green circles of success as they go through the class. So here, once we're in Indiana Carol, there are these exercises here. I'm going to show you what would it look like if a student clicked on one. This happens to be the second Indiana Carol button. Christine, this is intended, I have written it focused on a high school level, but I have not taught middle school, but I imagine 6th, 7th, and 8th graders would not have a problem for this. I think anyone who could do the intro to programming in JavaScript ACE could also do these as well. So that would be the grade level. Hopefully, there is a game and childishness to it, though I am trying to focus on a 14 to 18-year-old group. I want it to feel like play to them. So in the class we're in today, if you were to click on the Indiana Carol, the second exercise, that's what I'm looking at right now. And you can click around and look at that, but I'll go through the slides right here. When a student would click on that second button, this is what she would see. It'll start with a continuation of the plot to give them a sense of episodic adventure going on. Carol has successfully found the key and opened the mysterious door into the garden wall. Carol swings open the door and finds a musty stairway down. Walking fearfully down, Carol realizes the way is full of bats. Help Carol light the torches and chase away the bats. And then here's our story. And then we go into the instructions for what their code should do. They should paint all the red squares yellow. There should be a single for loop in the code that does all the lighting of the torches. And the loop should go from 0 to less than 9. I have found that instruction's a little bit opaque sometimes. It doesn't mean 8 times. It means from 0 to less than 9. And then they have to comment my code. I always require my students to comment their code. And then I give them a goal of less than 40 lines. This goal is mainly for grading purposes and to encourage students to use code reuse and to be as concise as possible. If they end up with 45 or 50 lines, that's not a problem. It may mean they're not going to get full credit on it. And I will say 40 lines is very generous. I probably could push that down to 35 and still 90% of my students would get it. Okay, so once they get past this with the story, the episodic story, and then basic instructions, they'll come in here to the CodeHS IDE that they will have come to know and love, except the fact that here's their world now. Here's our geography. We're in this room. We're in our musty dungeon. Carol's up here has got to somehow try to get through our musty dungeon. And for Carol to do this, the map must be transformed from what we have here on the right to what we have here on the left with the yellow squares. And the code's got to be written here in the center. Now, I just want to go through and see what the students will see here. If they click on the assignment tab up here, this is what they'll see. they'll go back to that original assignment explaining the plot and what they need to have done. Then if they click, this is for the teacher. If you click on the More tab for the teacher, here's a sample of a correct set of code. Now, it's not the correct set. I do not hold my students to this. It does not, their code does not have to look, other than their function having a loop that loops 9 times, they don't need to look like this. In fact, I'd rather them not. I'd rather them have unique names for their functions and things like that. Correct names, clear names, but unique names. And so this is but there for a teacher if a teacher wants to kind of see what's going on. So there is a lesson right there of what we would have for a student from the introduction to the IDE, going back to the instructions and then the teacher help right here. So that would be a 1 unit. I would say this BATS lesson probably takes my students in the neighborhood about 50 minutes to get all together because they are thorough. I make them comment very thorough. Why use Indiana Karel? Karel was made for fun, engagement, and for reinforcing material by spiraling. So the idea is to take old concepts and spiral back on them over and over again so they could just keep, at some point that light bulb is going to go off if it hasn't already. They can be used for measuring understanding. Paired programs awesome for this, where you have the navigator and the pilot. I happen to use these summatively. They don't have to be. I also use them as a block, but they also could be individually used. For example, the BATS unit could very specifically be used right after for loops are taught in that curriculum. You could just take that one and say, okay, we're going to jump straight to BATS for that. And the one called Deeper Still is a great use of the while loops. Each exercise gives students specific goals and guidance on how to write the code. The exercises also have a code length goal to challenge them to use concise code and reuse code. This number can be used in grading, and I don't count comments. I want them to comment thoroughly, so if their actual running code is 40 lines, and their commenting brings it up to 48 lines, that doesn't count against them. So fun engagement, that's why. When to use it. I use this unit in 2 classes. I use it at the end of my AP-CSP class. There's that moment in time where the AP test is ended for me the 2nd week of May. I still have about 2 weeks of class left. They're about to hit all of their exams. My seniors have flown the coop at this point, so I'm just been there with mainly sophomores and juniors. And I will introduce them to Indiana Karel at that point. It's actually harder for them than I had anticipated because they can't use parameters and they can't use lists. And those have actually become crutches for them in JavaScript in the course. And so now that's taken away. They're back now to using Ultra Karel. And I mean, they enjoy it. Usually they're very strong at this point. And I use it as a springboard to push them kind of create their own chapter of the Indiana Karel world. I also use it at the midpoint of my intro to programming class, which would be at the end of the 1st quarter. Again, where we've done the JavaScript, I want to go back. I want to have to reintroduce them to all of our primary concepts to really get them solid so they can get that material. So a comprehensive review of all they have learned from syntax to functions. The target audience. Okay, so I use this as a broad target audience. I don't, probably neither do any of you, but unlike some courses where kids might be leveled into different tierings of education, college prep, honors, AP, I don't have that in my classes. I have all levels and it's a mandatory course. So I will have students for whom coding is a breeze, is a thoughtless, easy exercise. But for struggling students, this is a chance for them to see the material from a new perspective in this fun, gamified way. And it gives me a chance to really give them some one-on-one attention. Because then I'll have my students who have had success so far, they can relearn, they can re-engage and feel really confident. Yeah, I've learned to code. I'm figuring this out. Or maybe something else will click for them that hadn't quite clicked so far. And then I'll always have 10% of the students who have been very, very strong and for whom Indiana Carroll is just a walkthrough. And they will go right through Indiana Carroll very quickly. And once they have done that, once they've done the 7 units of Indiana Carroll very, very quickly, I have a built-in section that's not in the lesson you see today, but it's separate for me, where they are then expected to go into the sandbox and add a chapter to Indiana Carroll. They're expected to tell me what are the challenges they want to have. They're expected to make multiple one starting world with a minimum of 2 maps that have to be solved from that initial world. So the code has to be usable on many different worlds. Better models for that than what I'm saying right now are actually in the Carroll challenges and the extra Carroll challenges, where one type of code has to work in multiple different settings, even settings, odd settings, huge settings, small settings. And so you can't just force your code to work. And so they create these maps, they create their own challenges, they write up their own code, they turn one into. Sometimes they're awesome. They get included. Sometimes, not so much. Okay, so what I want to do now is just go through what would it look like to go into the sandbox and create your own sandbox version of something to put in the problem bank. In this case, I'm going to talk about how to do an Indiana Carroll one. So what you would do when you're in your own CodeHS is on the left-hand menu bar, you'll see this Create button. And when you click on the Create button, up pops this window here that will have a list of your playlists and the assignments you've already created. And one option is going to be to click Create New. Another option is if you already have something you may have started because you had an idea in your head and you got it going, and then bell rings, fire drill, kid comes in the room, 10 seconds to go to the bathroom before the next period comes in. You can always save it and come back and hit the edit button and jump right back in where you were. So our 2 options here are to create a brand new assignment and to edit. And you can see these are the Carrolls. These are most of the Carrolls so far. The first set here are in my Indiana Carroll playlist, and they are published all on the problem bank right now. This Indiana Carroll bridge is probably the best one written yet. Not written by me. It was written by a student of mine last year. I will take no credit from it. She's really strong. She came into class really miserable and grumpy, left the class creating this wonderful thing, and now she's taking AP classes. So I'll take a little credit for that. So this Indiana Carroll bridge one is super cute. I can't wait to get it up there in the world for us all to see. So once you click on New Assignment or Edit, this is the first window you're going to see. And this window is deceptively simple because there's a lot going on behind this. And here is where you would write up your description of what do you want your exercise to look like. And this is where I write down my little plot piece, and this is where I write down my expectations for the students. And I'll be honest with you, normally when I start this, I just write the little plot piece because I don't always know exactly where it's going, or it's maybe how specific I want to be. For example, the only loop 9 times. I wouldn't know that at this point necessarily. Give it a title. I have to expand mine. Okay, then there's this option here for starter code and solution code. I'm going to show you a different place to access that. And then preview makes it so you can see your code in action. Well, we wouldn't be there yet. What we're going to do instead is come down here and click Advanced Settings, which says Advanced Settings, but for me, it really means this is where the actual work gets done. And here we are in Advanced Settings. And Advanced Settings has these tabs across the top here. The Overview is our first tab. This is our title of our exercise, the activity type of the exercise, whether it's going to be a test or a problem or what it's going to be. I choose the word exercise here. The language we're going to do it in. I did all these in JavaScript to match the curriculum I was using. Talking to Lori ahead of time ends up there's one of these also for Python that also works in the Ultra Karel environment. So I'm also going to work on this fall. When I say I mean I'm going to make my students duplicate all of this in a Python environment for us as well. I have 5 students who've been begging me to teach Python. So boom, we're doing our first Python class this fall, and they will be transforming this for us this fall. And then program type Ultra Karel. Karel has 3 levels of coding. I think it's Karel, Super Karel, and Ultra Karel. Ultra Karel is just the most capable of them. I work in that environment. At this point for them, I want them to have the full access to Karel's abilities. And then whether it's been published or not. And then here's our description. And then here, it also shows the code. This is the generic starter code right here. And you can put 0 things there. You delete that all. You can give them maybe starter names for functions here as well. You can do whatever you want, but that's one thing for starter code. And the solution code is visible only to instructors. The students can't natively see that. So you'll see here in the tabs that this second button here is for code. Now, we're going to actually pass over today. What you would see in there is just what you see here at the bottom, where a creator can edit the starter code and edit the solution code. That's all that is right there. But the next button, this is where the rubber hits the road for the purposes of Indiana Karel. It's creating these Karel worlds. And I will tell you, I love that the word world is being used here. It just seems so immersive. And when you come into Karel worlds, this is what you'll see. You'll see usually a blank thing right here. For you guys, you're seeing what I created right here. This is the starting world for Karel, which we can click edit on, and you come in here and you can place and remove walls. You could place and remove these different color squares. You could place and remove balls, and you could put Karel facing any direction, anywhere you want. And you can create a world anywhere from 1 by 1 to, I think, 50 by 50. I think it can be really embarrassingly large, but they get very, very large. But they have to be some version of a rectangle. And then once you go and edit there, it'll give you an option in there and we'll see this in a little bit, to click on the word solution. And when you click on solution, it will duplicate your original world, that's this one right here, the starter world. They'll duplicate that for you, and then you tweak it as a teacher, and that will show what do the students need to code to make a change in the world. And it might just be the location of Karel. It might be, like in this case, the red painted squares need to become yellow painted squares. Maybe there are balls that need to be picked up or put down. So all depends upon what you want to do in your world. But the solution would be what the auto grader uses to double check the correctness of the student's work. You'll also see on this page that I have this, the bottom left one is the first map where Karel is at home in his doghouse, and he all of a sudden discovers a treasure, and he gathers the treasure together, and he goes to this little black square, which is a door, and he unlocks the door to adventures ensue from that little thing. So that's the Karel world section. And then so here we are back. Then we get to the auto grader configurator config area. And this is, if you've seen the auto config in the other areas, it's what the grader uses to make sure the student has run the code correctly. And here you can very granularly change what you want the auto grader to approve of. My students love the green circle. They are obsessed with the green circle of completion. If not everything in the auto grader is done, they will be stuck forever on the yellow circle of doom. And some of my students cannot handle that. So before the schoolwork starts, do you want me to do that? I will say, Christine, what you can also do is I think if you click on the sandbox, you can also see this. Can I make it bigger for you? I don't know if I can. Lori, if there's some quick way for me to do that, I will do that.
If it's too small, we could jump over to your slides real quick,
Go over
Erik.
here.
Yeah, and just go into presenter view. Yeah.
Let's see if this helps you out here.
Yeah. Go ahead and keep going there.
Here we go. Is that better? Hopefully that's better for you. Yep. Okay. So, so you'll see here, there's lots of different options that I generally have basically all of them on if they're, unless they don't need a for loop. So I turn them on. I will say, if one is not complete, they will not get the green circle. They'll be stuck in the yellow circle. So this is the auto grader setup. And then the next thing across is teacher notes. These are just notes from me as the creator to you as the potential user, not to the student. And this is where I'm just I give my little defense to say, look, I'm still working on this. Hopefully you'll get better. And this is where I add that for the other teachers to see what's going on for stuff. And then the final button here is the assign button. And this is where I can immediately, having created the exercise, send it over to a course that I'm teaching. I can show where in the course it's going to fall. I can turn on and off blocks. I saw someone in our group prefers to teach with blocks, and that's great. You can turn it on with Karel. You can use the blocks very easily. Time, date, what's its value going to be? Will it automatically go in the grade book, and is the auto grader on? Now, I will tell you, I don't usually assign from this location because I usually put it as a playlist. I will put it into the course, and then I will sign up from within the course. But this is one of the options to do it in. Let me pause here real quick as we go, because we're about to get into Playland. I'm going to go do a little bit more, but are there any questions? I know I've been rolling through a lot of stuff.
I haven't seen any additional questions yet.
So if you have any, please pop them up. I'd be happy to answer. And we may have a feline joining us here. So we'll see what he does here. Okay. So
they're always welcome.
Yes. I think so. Yeah. He can't figure out why I'm not on my other computer right now playing games this summer. So when I start at Indiana Karel, I want to think, what is the goal of our exercise? I'm going to start here in the bottom. Look, what's the plot? Am I searching and finding? Is there a maze for Karel to go through? Am I moving an item or items? Am I replacing an item? Is there some type of math logic puzzle I want to put in there? Also, I'll think about what is the coding I want to do. Am I going to focus on for loops, while loops, if else's, code reuse, which is a big thing for me, is to make sure we're not just writing turn, move, turn. Naming conventions, which I find some of my students get a little lazy at. Embedded for loops, which for some reason I do a bad job teaching because at this point they all mess them up and I've got to reteach them. Being concise with their coding. And then I also need to be very aware of what am I going to turn on and off for the auto grader. Now, this is a dynamic experience that will come. Grade 5. Lori, Portia, do you think that the intro to programming Karel is grade 5 capable? Yeah, okay. I think that's a nodding of a yes.
Yeah, I couldn't find my unmute, and Portia can definitely jump in too. I'll say when I was in my district, I actually went down into grade 5 and even dipped into grade 4. And the intro to programming is great. I think Karel is a phenomenal introduction to programming, and I know my grade 5 kids loved it. Portia, were you going to add to that?
I'm just thinking about how far ACE goes. ACE goes up to Ultra. No, not Ultra, Super. Yeah. So if there are some challenges in there that deal with like the color commands, that's something that just needs to be scaffolded.
Yeah. So Super, and then we add colors at Ultra, and that could be either easily be scaffolded or kind of removed. But I do think, especially with the shape coding, that probably that 10 and 11-year-olds could probably do this. And in fact, the Indiana Carols are meant to be very, very friendly in that way, especially since they're meant to be engaging, I would say. So anyway, when we get our exercise, when you have an idea for an exercise, you kind of start right here, and then you'll come in. Wait, am I further? I see. I think I need to go back for a second. I just want to advertise right here that this is what the problem bank looks like in CodeHS. And while the title of this is Indiana Carol, and I'm creator of Indiana Carol, I just want to say that there are many, many fabulous exercises in the problem bank. Some have been used hundreds of times by dozens or if not hundreds of teachers in many different settings. And you can come in here and do this filter through and go through and find any type of thing for any occasion. And so while this is a little bit of an advertisement for Indiana Carol, I want to make sure that this is actually an advertisement for the CodeHS community at large, where you can please create and add or find stuff here to bring along. Okay, I think that brings me to somehow this is the end of my slideshow. So I'm going to need to go back to my other environment. I apologize for that. So what I want to do now is, I'm going to go now and I'm going to because I'm going to start creating something. And I'm just going to come up here to this. Actually, I'm not going to the sandbox. I'm going to go to my homepage of CodeHS and come down here to the Create tab. And I'm going to get into my playlist. Now, for you, feel free to follow along. I'd also encourage you, if you just want to go and start creating right now and clicking and ask while you've got this friendly environment of Portia and Lori who can tell you all the answers to stuff, please just start diving in and creating things. So here's my little world right here. And I want to work on this Carol rainbow, which clearly I need to modify my name of. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to edit it. And I've created this thing. Karel is ready to color. His play yard is the perfect place to start. Have Karel color each loop of his yard a different color. Practice using your for loops. Use abstractions so you can reuse the same for loops. Have Karel end facing east in the bottom left corner. So here's the description I wrote up for this. And let me see what I got here. So far, it's going to be running in Super Karel. Here is a solution code. Let's see here. And here we are in this little world, and this is where we get to go and edit things around. I want to see what I've got here so far. So if I come into Karel Worlds, now this is where, okay, so in this case, Karel has started for me with a blank world right here. And what I want Karel to do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, is to make each zip around. Okay, so when I was thinking about this, it was like I was preparing for this, and I thought a couple of days ago this would be a kind of one I could model. And then I realized that I feel like there's two directions I could have my students go for this, and I don't know which one I'm going to have them do. And admittedly, I won't know until October, middle of October, when I'm actually going to assign this to my students, and I'm going to give them, I'm going to say, here, I want you to try to code this 2 different ways. I'm going to make them try 2 different strategies, and then I'm going to figure out based on their success or failure, which one's better. Because I can't decide, do I want them to create 5 different loops and just practice making 5 unique different loops, one called red loop, orange loop, yellow loop, like that? Or do I want them to try to create one reusable function that each time produces? I don't know. That one I can't imagine because there's not really a parameter that goes in here. So anyway, here we go. So I'm going to go into this world right here, and we can edit up this world. And so here in this is where we can edit Karel's world. And so you see right now, Karel's world we have here, it's just a basic square. It's 10 by 10. Right now we have Karel starting in the bottom left corner. We can have Karel here start at row 5, say. And then see, we have Karel move up here, and Karel's going to start in a new location. And maybe I want Karel to be starting in the middle. So we'll have Karel starting in the middle. And this, you can have Karel start anywhere you want. And then I did describe that I wanted Karel to end this code in the bottom left corner facing east. That's important to describe to them because that's what the auto grader is going to be looking for, is the final position of Karel when the whole thing's over. And then here, when we do things, we can add walls. So in this case, I could do that if I wanted to somehow give them, a challenge so that Karel is not just going to be running around in circles over and over and over again, but Karel's going to be running into random walls periodically, and they're going to have to figure out what's Karel going to do when Karel runs on a wall. Now, I will tell you, adding walls, adding that sensitivity is a significant jump in difficulty. Significant jump. It goes from just making a basic for loop where they run around to then Karel's got to make some type of series of logic points to walk around this, get back to where Karel was, and continue with the painting in whatever color Karel would do. So you would add or remove walls here. Also, what I don't see here is I don't see paint. Oh, I know why, because I'm in Super Karel right now, which is it's my mistake. This should be an Ultra Karel, and it's my mistake. I think I have it set Super Karel. So and then you could have you have these balls, and you place the balls wherever you want Karel to be, and you'd say, okay, we're gonna have Karel clean up these balls and deal with these walls along the way, right? So then once you've created your initial world here, then we're going to come here and click Add Solution. Cancel, save. Thank you for helping me out there. Add Solution. Okay, so once we add Solution, here, this is the same world. This is the same world. And notice I can no longer add and remove walls, because Karel doesn't have that coding ability to do. I also cannot change the starting point of Karel anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to, then we can come here and just say, I want to remove the balls that were already there, and I want to put them in the mirror image spots. I think I got it. That from where they just were. And this would be our solution world. And once we create our solution world, we'll click Save. And then if you click back to exercise, that will actually take you to a preview of what you've been doing. So we're going to click back to worlds. And hopefully this works for me. This is where I messed up last time. Let's see here, edit. Here's my solution. This is where I'm looking for that publish word. I always miss that. Edit solution. We got that, right?
I think once you hit save,
Save.
and then you go back and
yeah, see, this is where I messed this up. There's some point where I should be able to well, I might have been supposed to do it here in this custom worlds, but anyway. So I'm going to go back to the program for the moment, because then I want, and so here we go. Actually, it worked out.
I
So
wonder,
here,
I think that might have been a difference maybe between Ultra Carol, maybe. and Super Carol.
maybe,
I'll
yeah.
do some double checking right now.
So here's our starting world. I messed up my mirror image on those two. And here is our ending world. And this takes us to now our program where our students can jump in and start coding. And they can start coding this, and they know that this is the initial world, and they need to write some code. And I would give them some goal. You know, I'd write this out a couple of times to figure out, okay, I think this can be done in 35 lines, probably 35 lines, because cleaning this up would be pretty quick. Where we'd have Karel go back and forth, just looking for balls and clean up the balls, and then go back up and move and place these 6 balls. And I'd have them say, you've got 35 lines to do this, and they'd write the code. And then, you know, the auto grader would go, and I will say that to make my life easy, what I do is they're going through, I'm checking their code, I'm watching over them. It isn't until I've run this for some type of test before I won't have the auto grader go until I've run this a couple times with at least 2 classes. Because there are times where I've written code, I've written samples of these, and they're just bad. Like I've written Indiana carols that just don't work. The very first Indiana carol one of the chapter, when Karel was writing the keys, the first time I wrote that one, I realized I was needing them to read my mind. It was undoable. I had a couple classes did it. We figured out the kinks in it. And then later I made some modifications to the map, and now it's a solid, usable thing. But anytime I have a new one, I can never presume that I've given a good enough map that, yeah, maybe I can code it, but that no one's asking me to code it. In fact, when my students ask me, can you help me with this? I say, yeah, but yes, I can do that, but no one's asking me to do it, right? The goal is that can you do it? And so I will have a couple classes run this just to make sure I've gotten the bugs out of it. And then I will at that point, based off the feedback I've gotten from students and from my own observations, write up the auto grader, make the tweaks to the map as needed. And sometimes it's as simple as removing one wall, and all of a sudden it becomes very doable. In fact, I can tell you that that's true for bats. I had one wall in one location that just made it so half my students could never figure it out. And I removed that one wall, and I about a 90% success rate now, which is, I think, better. So anyway, I think that brings me to the end of my time here. So if you have any other questions for me, I hope I was able to be helpful with the joys of gamification of Karel here.
Thank you so much, Erik. I absolutely encourage all of you to go out, try creating your own worlds. It's very addicting. And Erik, I might have been playing and creating some of my own worlds while you were talking. So.
Good.
It's just a blast. And know that your students can absolutely do this too. They can create their own worlds. It's amazing. It's just the coolest thing. And I think not enough people know about it. So this was absolutely something that Erik and I have wanted to, I wanted to get his ideas out there for so long. This is just one of my favorite things in the whole world. I love Indiana Carol. So I think you should maybe watch for more Indiana Carol to come. I think Erik and I will be talking later about this some more. And do know, because I know we have a lot of Python teachers here too. You can absolutely do this exact same thing in Python. If you are using Java, I was taking a look at that. We do have Karel for Java, but we don't have Ultra Karel listed. So just be aware of that, because you'll want the Ultra Karel to get the cool colors and everything. So definitely take a look, play. If you create something cool, your kids create something cool, let us know. We want to share what y'all are doing. So I'm going to toss this link into chat. Oops, sorry, I did not make it clickable. I forgot the HTTPS. Let me do it one more time. There we go. And clicking this link will immediately trigger the certificate to be sent to you. Watch for it to come from help@codehs.com. And if you don't see that, go ahead and drop an email to me, and I'll go ahead and make sure that you get that. I can always resend it. Yeah, so go ahead and click that, and it should just be a super quick page. You shouldn't have to fill anything out. Let's go ahead and head to that next slide. We've got all kinds of links here for you. I'll go ahead and actually I can grab those real quick, and maybe don't know where my mouse went, but there's some links. We have lots of links for a ton of different things. The Certified Educators Group.
Yeah, join us. We have fun with that.
Oh, you absolutely have to join the
Yeah.
Certified Eds. I was a certified educator too. They have, I think, taken my badge off of my little CodeHS icon now. Put it back on. Technically, I guess I shouldn't have it, but whatever. But it's a great group, so definitely join that. Definitely also keep an eye on the free PD page, because we always have more PDs coming. We have a ton of back to school stuff up now, and we have more that are going to be listed very soon. So keep an eye on that. And also join the CodeHS community Slack workspace. We have been working on starting to build that up more. Some of you are already in it. If you're not, you're going to want to click on that very first link that you see in my giant message that I just sent. There's also a slightly better link. I'll go ahead and send that one too. Make sure I'm doing it right. That one will take you right out to it. CodehS.com/community-connect. And that will let you join our Slack workspace and connect with educators and the CodeHS team. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. All right, so next couple of workshops that are coming up are the one on Monday, August 15th, called New Powerful CodeHS IDE Features. This summer has been an amazing summer. Our engineers, I don't really know when they've slept, because they have come up with so many new things and cool features. So definitely you are going to want to take a look at this webinar. Even if you can't attend, make sure you register, because we'll send out a follow-up so you get that recording. So definitely register for that. And then on Tuesday, August 30th, we have Getting Started with CodeHS. Just a really quick overview, short 30 minutes. Again, just register for that. And you can always get the recording if you can't make it at the actual time. And keep an eye at codehs.com/freepd for any more that are getting added. Let's go ahead and go to the next one. All right, we have just one more request. If you could take a moment to fill out our workshop survey. I'm going to stop. There we go. Stop talking while I type that, because I apparently cannot chew gum and walk at the same time. So I had to stop talking. codehs.com/workshop survey. Let us know how we did today. I know that I was very inspired, and yeah, I made a world that now I need to make a program for. So I was just having fun making a world, but let us know how we did, and let us know what else you'd like to see. Want to see more Indiana Karel? Maybe you want to see more about using it in Python. You can just get more questions about creating things. Let us know, and we'd be more than happy to set up a workshop. So very excited to do that. If you've got any questions about the certificates, definitely watch for them to come from the hello@codehs.com email address. Those don't come from me. They'll come from that email address. So you might want to check spam. If you have not received a certificate for a workshop that you attended, it might be if you hadn't clicked that attendance link. That's how I'm actually able to send those out. But if you need those, go ahead and drop me an email. And I just threw my email into chat, Lori@codehs.com. And that will let me just send me an email, and I'll go dig for those and send you those links. So I can definitely do that. And I think that's about it. Let's head to the very last slide, Erik, because it's very important, and it says thank you. So first of all, Erik, thank you so much. I love Indiana Karel, and I'm giddy that we finally got to do this. We're going to do more. It's just,
Good.
That's how it is. We're going to do more. So
Lots of fun. Thank you all for joining today. It's nice to have
Thank you all. Yeah, and thank you. We appreciate your time. We know it's getting to be a busy time of year. So have a wonderful rest of your day. I hope it's still summer for all of you and you're still on break. So thank you so much, everybody. and hope to see you all very, very soon at the very next CodeHS workshop. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.